Hi Maya, welcome to the podcast. For people who are watching, I want to say that Maya is a journalist in Israel, and today I'm going to be engaging in a discussion about the current state of affairs in Israel. Maya, welcome once again. Glad to have you here. So,
Hi, thanks a lot for having me. It's very nice of you.
let me begin by asking my first question is that what is the collective state of mind in Israel right now? Because Israel and Lebanon are on the brink of a full scale war. So, is there any fear in the minds of Israelis that this will escalate into a wider scale Middle Eastern war?
Yeah, it's been a kind of an emotional seesaw in Israel last month. You know that end of August, Israeli army found 6 of our hostages dead in Hamas tunnels. They were Eden Yerushalmi, Almog Sarusi, Alex Lobanov, Uri Denino, Carmel Gat, and Hirsch Goldberg Pauline. So, last day of August, Israeli army found 6 hostages dead killed in Gaza tunnels,
Okay,
uh, aged from 23 to 40. Oredanina, Carmel Gat, Hersh Goldberg, Pauline, Eden Yerushalmi. I
okay,
did an interview with her sister. It was
okay.
heartbreaking.
And that
Alex Labanov. Yeah.
one person is American citizen, right?
Hersh Goldberg Polin,
Yeah.
this guy, yes, he had an American citizenship, and President Biden commented on the founding his
Okay,
body. He was a very well-loved guy in Jerusalem, a big football fan, and
okay, okay,
a lot of people came to say goodbye to him.
okay,
Alex Lobanov and Elmog Sarusi, all young people. So it was a very heavy blow for Israeli society at the moment. And uh, next day, about 500,000 people went to the streets of Tel Aviv to protest. This
okay,
is the picture from the drone, how Tel Aviv street looked like that
okay.
night. Well, you probably heard that we were having protests for a lot of time since last year, but the families of the hostages have been holding protests every Saturday night
Okay.
uh, for all this time. So about 500,000 people, that's a very
Okay.
large number for any city, and Israel is a very small country. So for Israel, it's a
Okay.
huge
Okay.
crowd came out on the streets and to uh, let the government know that they are not happy and they should do something. And after that, all-time low moment at the end of August, it started saying in September that the Israeli army recovered from that horrific catastrophe that we had on October 7th and started moving forward tremendously. And we have eliminated a lot of Hezbollah terrorists
Okay.
and yeah it and the operations that the army did was something out of James Bond movies.
Wow. Yeah.
The blowing up of pagers and
Yeah.
walkie-talkies was something else, and today our army eliminated the arch
Oh,
terrorist, the leader of
Nasrallah.
Hezbollah 30 years, Hassan
Okay.
Nasrallah, yeah.
Okay.
And well, you could say that the society is taking these developments in a very good
Okay.
mode, because it means that we are moving forward in providing our safety and eliminating the terrorists who are a threat not only for Israel, but for Lebanon, for instance, too, because Hezbollah has been occupying effectively Lebanon for recent years. So, yeah, we've been emotionally in a very different stages lately. And the society has probably got used to that feeling of not knowing what to expect next. But we are hoping for more good news.
Okay. So, since we are talking about this Israelis intelligence operations inside Gaza, so how did it was straight out of a James Bond movie? So, how did intelligence agency like Mossad fail to foresee the October 7th attack?
That's a very good question, and the one that the whole Israel has been asking itself and each other since October 7th. It has been a tremendous shock. It has been a catastrophe and a collapse of the whole intelligence system, really, because not to know that such a high-scale attack is being prepared is very weird. And we haven't had any investigation so far because our prime minister decided that first we finish the war and eliminate our enemies, and after that we're going to investigate what happened on October 7th. Independent journalists have been trying to carry out a kind of investigation themselves.
Okay.
But it's not so easy in the state of war. So we don't have any proper answers, really. The understanding is that the army and the intelligence relaxed, however horrible it is to say that, and they underestimated Hamas. We've been thinking mostly about Hezbollah, and we've been thinking about the threat that Hezbollah poses with its huge army and its huge barrage of missiles. And we underestimated Hamas. We've been thinking that we are not in any danger from them at the moment. So probably they used that moment. The country was having its own troubles. We've been having a lot of protests over the prime minister's personality and criminal cases that he's having against himself. And it's a very controversial figure, our prime minister. And the country was in a very deep unrest. So probably they used that moment when we were not at our top.
So, of late, the Biden administration has been nudging Netanyahu towards a two-state solution. Given given the current circumstances, is the two-state solution still feasible?
I must say that first, the Biden administration has helped us tremendously, and probably we wouldn't be where we are today without the American help, and we are very grateful for that, even though there's been some pressure on Israel political wise, but all the warships that you guys are sending, all the weapons that you are sending, and even the mere stating of support, this don't that Biden said addressed to the terrorists, it's a huge thing, and it's something that Israel will remember always. Still,
Okay.
Sometimes it doesn't look like everyone in the administration realized the whole complexity of the situation over here in
That's
Middle East.
sure. There are surely some anti-Israeli elements inside the Democratic Party.
It looks like
Yeah. Okay.
because the two-state solution right now and in any foreseeable future after October 7th, I really don't think that Israel will be ready to discuss because it will mean that we are going to have not just a terrorist-run enclave at our border, but a whole terrorist-run, officially recognized state, and that would be another kind of problem.
Okay.
Also, there is at this point, do the Palestinians really want a state? Has somebody asked them?
That's the question I've been wanting to ask. Are the Palestinians really interested in peace? Because if they were interested in a peaceful resolution to this conflict, clearly Yasser Arafat would not have rejected that permanent solution in 1998. So how do you view this?
Absolutely. So there are, well, first of all, it's a very problematic term, the Palestinians. There are the Palestinians and the Palestinians, and if I'm not sure if we really have a nation like that, but their leaders, Yasser Arafat and currently the Hamas leaders, they're absolutely not interested in any kind of peace.
They,
It's
they
not
want to
their,
wipe Israel off the map.
yes, that's their agenda. That's written down in their agenda, and it's open for everyone interested to check and see.
Okay.
And all these from the river to the sea thing, it's exactly about that. When the people are shouting this slogan, I have a funny video.
That slogan, from river to the sea, means it's calling for the destruction of Israel.
It's calling
It's
for,
as
yes,
simple as that.
for wiping out of Israel. Let me show you a nice video of a person shouting that slogan. I was enjoying watching it.
Now, we love a good vox pop on this program. Let's see what the young folk at a DC pro-Palestinian rally are thinking. Surely even this lot will not make excuses for rape, torture and slaughter of innocent Israelis on October 7.
Can you guys tell me a little bit about your goal here today?
As queer people, we have a duty to show up here and stand in solidarity with all of the other marginalized communities.
All of this kind of started October 7th. So what do you have to say about October 7th and the actions of Hamas?
I think definitely the protest started October 7th, but like this issue did not start October 7th.
I guess October 7th they like did something. They came out of like trying to like fight back, you know, because you know they've been oppressed for so many years.
Hamas is the reaction. It's not a problem. Hamas is the result of the situation.
Other young people out there, should they come out and protest and show their support for Hamas?
I think they should.
And your sign says, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free."
Yeah.
Can you tell me which river and which sea we're talking about here?
This is you've caught me on the spot, and I'm really horrible when asking questions. But basically, the river and the sea that border both sides of Palestine, where Israel is right now.
Oh dear.
It was nice. She asked her which river and which sea, and she wasn't sure what she was actually talking about. So about the river and the sea, I have this map here for all other probably people who are not sure what is it about. So let's just check. This is the river.
Can you enlarge it?
Can I see it?
Can you please enlarge it?
Enlarge.
Okay. So that region is called Judea, right?
Right. So this is Jordan River.
Okay.
This is the state of Israel.
Okay.
Here
What
is
is Samaria?
Jordan. Here is Syria. Here is the natural border, the Jordan River, and this is the Mediterranean Sea.
Okay.
So this is from the river to the sea, the whole territory of the state of Israel.
Okay.
This is what they're talking about.
Okay.
The leaders of Hamas and well, let's take Hezbollah because it's just the same. They're terrorists. They're
Okay.
terrorists, and they're not interested in any kind of peace because not really because they are so fanatic to want to wipe out Israel or became shaheeds, but because they are getting very rich on doing this. We eliminated 2 of 3 Hamas leaders, Ismail Hani and Mohammed Deif, and they are multimillionaires. They've been living in Qatar. They've been living in palaces. They have millions in banks worldwide. And why would they want for this to stop? They don't. As for the Palestinian people, it's a very difficult and complicated situation. I don't know if you want me to launch into that talk right now.
Got it.
But yeah.
Sorry, sir. In retrospect, was the 2014 nuclear deal signed by the Obama administration a huge mistake? Because that deal actually lifted the sanctions that were imposed on Iran, and it released a lot of funds, frozen funds to that Iranian regime, and that Iranian regime funneled those funds to terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah. Now that those terrorist organizations are waging a war against Israel. So can you unpack this for us?
Iran is a fundamental state with an unpredictable government, and it's also a very huge point on their agenda to wipe out Israel from the face of the earth. To allow such a state have nuclear weapon might well lead to catastrophe. So I believe it was a very wise step from the part of the United States and the international society to develop such deal. Thanks to it, Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was reduced by some 98%. And the time it might take Iran to build the bomb was extended from 1 to 2 months at the moment of ratification of the deal to a year. About the frozen funds, it's a pity that they had to release it, but Iran is a very wealthy state, and it would afford supporting the terrorists all the same. And the lifting of the sanctions, I believe, was aimed at integrating Iran into global world. There were some kinds of economic sanctions that they didn't, as far as I remember, they didn't lift the sanctions put on Iran for supporting terrorism, for instance. Those stayed in place. And some of the economic sanctions, lifting of which might help Iran become a part of normal global free world, that might have been a good thing. Pity that it didn't work.
So there have been a lot of speculations about why this October 7th happened. Some say that the normalization of a relationship between Israel and the neighboring Arab territories did not sit well with Iran, and so it launched this attack through Hamas. And some say that the internal divisions that prefaced this October 7th attack inside Israel actually made Israel look weaker and vulnerable, and it kind of opened the doors of an enemy attack. So opened the doors for an enemy attack. So how do you see this?
I think the truth involves a combination of this factor. Indeed, there is a theory of suggesting this sabotage of regional relations. But another perspective is that Hamas saw an opportunity to strike due to Israel's internal divisions that were in place at the moment. The country has been experiencing turmoil. I've mentioned that before, and it might have been interpreted as a sign of weakness. It's a very big thing in the Middle East, perceived weakness. You can't, it's like a law of the jungle. You can't let your enemies perceive that you're weak at the moment. So that might have triggered Hamas to launch this attack. They might have believed that Israel's response might be less coordinated.
Okay.
But make no mistake, this attack has been prepared for years, not even months, and it was an integral part of Hamas's goals, both strategic and ideological. Hamas is an anti-Semitic jihadist movement, which vows to obliterate Israel. Hamas has consistently opposed Israel's existence, and they have been bombing Israel long before October 7th. Once or twice a year, we've been all running to the shelters for a few days. So this attack on October 7th was a manifestation of this long-standing hostility, as well as the demonstration of their capabilities. They wanted to show how strong they were. So this level of preparation that they demonstrated indicates that it was not a spontaneous attack. They've been planning this for years and aiming to cause maximum disruption and casualties.
Okay. How do you react when people say that Hamas does not represent Palestinians?
That's a very good question. I would like to quote President of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele. He's of Palestinian origin. And when asked on the topic, he said, "The best that might happen to Palestinian people is if Hamas is destroyed. These monsters do not represent Palestinians," said by a person of Palestinian origin. Make no mistake, Hamas is to blame for all the Palestinians' sufferings. The fault for all the casualties that might be falls squarely on the shoulders of the aggressor. Moreover, they are hiding behind their civilians. It's common knowledge already that they have been building their tunnels under residential quarters, under hospitals. They've been having their headquarters at schools. There are tons of video footage and photographic evidence of that. Their main headquarters in Gaza was under the hospital, the biggest one in Gaza as well. Meanwhile, even the United Nations that are opposing Israeli war with Hamas states that over 80% of Gazans live in poverty. And how much money has been channeled to Gaza from the United Nations, from the United States of America, and all the international community, it's unbelievable. And all that money has been going into building the tunnel infrastructure. They've built the tunnel infrastructure that's can be compared to, I don't know, London
subways.
It's crazy. Hamas spends $100 million a year on military infrastructure. Imagine what they could have built for Gazan people if they wanted to.
They could have turned it into Singapore.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Singapore, Dubai, what you name it. But $100 million a year on military infrastructure, and how much has been stolen and went to the pockets of their leaders. We can't count that, right? They don't even produce anything. An interesting fact that probably not everyone knows, that until October 7, Israel provided Gaza with all the civilian infrastructure, water, electricity, gas. We even collected garbage from Gaza. We did it all for free and without any obligation to. Israel doesn't have any relation to Gaza since 2005. Then again, Hamas has won elections in Gaza, that people did vote for it. But that was 20 years ago, and that was before they seized complete power in a military coup, destroyed their political opponents, and then the democratic procedure. They didn't have any elections after that. Hamas is a parasitic organization, and I strongly agree with those who, seeing the motto "Free Palestine," add to it "from Hamas." But the question is, the problematic question is how to know to what extent the people support this terroristic government. I don't believe in the idea of collective responsibility, but there's been quite a lot of videos of civilians coming in hundreds into the kibbutzes, into the settlement, the villages on October 7th after the terrorists looting and marauding and whatnot, including women and teenagers and the elderly. Everyone came. We all see how fast Hamas recruits new soldiers. And we know for a fact that the civilians have been holding some of Israeli hostages at their houses. For example, the IDF has confirmed that the 3 hostages that have been freed in June, Almog Meyurk, Andrei Kozlov, and Shlomi Ziv, they were held in a family house of Gazan so-called civilians, a journalist who worked for Al Jazeera, and his father, a physician. These 3 people, the hostages, have been kept in captivity in the house of this family for 6 months. Those people were civilians, right? The 4th hostage freed in June, Noah Argamani, was held in another house nearby. It belonged to Abu Nar family. A family member told the media that this family who held Noah, it was a relatively well-off family, and they made her wash dishes and do other household chores for them. And they told her she was lucky to be held by them because the other hostages were experiencing much worse. Those were the civilians. By the way, these people were holding hostages while having young children at home. That's what the Hamas and their collaborators do. They hide between the civilians and the children and the sick.
Okay.
Despite
despite all these things, why Israel is not able to convince the international community that it is fighting a justified and righteous war and it is acting only in self-defense?
It's another very good and very complicated question. First of all, Hamas has very strong and very well-developed propaganda. Hamas succeeded in infiltrating Western mass media, the most respected ones too. And for some reason, people do believe the propaganda that Hamas is pouring into their ears. And I believe that there's a question of hidden anti-Semitism that's always there. Nowadays, it's called anti-Zionism, but it's just the same thing.
Okay.
Also, yeah.
Continue, sorry.
Yeah, right. Also, the question of the universities, the chaos in the universities.
Yeah.
It's
So that's what I was going to ask, which is after October the 7th, I expected a widespread support for Israel from all around the world. But this openly vicious anti-Semitic attacks that you are witnessing, that we have been witnessing across university campuses in America, have really shocked me. So how are the Israelis making sense of this?
First of all, thank you for those emotions. It's much appreciated, and
Okay.
it seems a hard task to stay even human these days. October 7th was Israel's 9/11. Make no mistake.
It's worse than that.
Oh, right, probably we can't be comparing this amount of grief, but yeah, it's the heaviest catastrophe since the Holocaust that Israel have seen. So I've been thinking of what you've asked all the time. It's a very hard question. Let's try to unpack some of that. Let's start with the campuses of the universities in the USA and Europe. There's been research showing that the universities with the highest rate of protest have all been discreetly financed by Qatar and failing at that to report those finances in their tax reports. I have some numbers here to show you. So these are the numbers of funding that the United States institutions received from Qatar. This is the primary sponsor, you see. We can see Saudi Arabia here and other states, but Qatar is far superior to everyone. And these are the institutions receiving the largest amount of the funding. Probably you can recognize here the main protest institutions. We all have heard about Harvard, Massachusetts Technology, Yale, and these are the institutions that received the largest amount of unreported funding. So you take billions of dollars from Qatar, you don't report it in your tax report, and then you're all of a sudden having students protest against Israel. That's kind of a thought-provoking thing. All in all, this research showed that at least 200 American colleges and universities illegally withheld information of the funding of around 13 billion in undocumented contributions. Also, the researchers interviewed the students, and we can see a strong correlation of students, for instance, saying that Israel has no right to exist as a Jewish country in the institutions that received the funding from Qatar and other states, and those ones that haven't. Saying that the US government only supports Israel because of the Jewish money, same thing. The most part of students who agreed to this statement were studying in the universities that received the contributions and illegally withheld information about it. Drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policies to that of the Nazis. Funny in itself, but still, again, most people here, and boycotting Jewish organizations because they have a connection to Israel. A great part of people studying in these universities. The National Association of Scientists studied another strong tie between protests and funding. from terrorist sponsoring states, American campuses built in Qatar. You can see that.
These are all very reputed universities in USA. It's really, shocking. No, these are all very reputed universities in USA. It's very shocking.
Absolutely, yeah. So the protests and the reaction of the university administrations has been a shock too. But all these taking money from Qatar. So these are American campuses in Qatar, established some 30 years ago. And this figure is funding for that project, for building campuses, billions of dollars to the universities. Right. So that's that. But the problem runs deeper than that. We need to ask ourselves, how come that the students and the teachers, the people who are the present and the future of intellectual elite, America, same in Europe, accepted the Hamas narrative so lightly? I would say that first is ignorance or reluctancy to delve deep in the problem. There's been plenty of the videos from the protests, like the one I'm going to send you the link for, that the protesters don't know the first thing about Israel, actually haven't heard of October 7th, shout from the river to the sea, but can't explain which river or which sea they are meaning.
I mean, right? I watched that video where one student said it was Black Sea.
Yeah, that was another one. That was another one. I wanted to find that too, but I couldn't. And the one that I've been trying to show, the student said, "Oh, you caught me off guard. I can't remember now."
Okay.
Plus, just one more point. Hamas propaganda is really efficient. It's a phenomenon. It has been caught red-handed all the time, but nobody seems to care. For example, I would like to try to show another video. I hope that it plays. If not, I'll send you the link. And so this is ruins of Gaza, right? And a grief-stricken father is crying over his presumably dead son. Let's look close. Can you see it? But there's more. You cannot see what he's doing. He's scratching his
I cannot
foot.
hear. I mean, we can add the video clip.
Okay. So the video was a presumably dead child was scratching his foot in the middle of the video. So that's the kind of videos Hamas have been feeding to the European and American media, but still they succeed with that propaganda of theirs. Gaza death toll that they're intimidating the international community with. It's jumping all around. They can't make the ends of it. One day it's, let's see some figures. Here, this is total casualties reported. In reality, there can't be such regularity, this perfect graph. One would expect variation from day to day, but this is strikingly little variation. And there's been other kinds of discrepancies in Hamas data in their casualty counts, but nobody seems to notice that. They're tremendously efficient. The media quote their spokesman as if they are not a terrorist organization, but a legitimate government. Not many media even bother to note that all Gazan institutes are under control of Hamas terrorists. For instance, they would quote the health department of Gaza, but it's just some speaking head saying what the terrorists want us to know. There's no health department aside of Hamas. Why is Hamas propaganda so efficient is a topic for manuscripts, for scientific study, I guess, because why do people believe the terrorists rather than the only democratic state in the area? Probably it's the centuries-old anti-Semitism that didn't go anywhere after all. Probably it goes too well with the trendy leftist views that are very much embraced nowadays. In this logic, Israel is the powerful colonizer and occupier and you name it, and the Palestinians are victims and freedom fighters. Consecutively, the victims are allowed.
If they believe that Israel is a settler colonial state, then countries like America, Canada, and Australia do not have the right to exist.
Absolutely, Great Britain. Yeah, absolutely. Again, people don't know the first thing about Israel. I've been making an interview with a woman who survived in a burning house on October 7th with her family and with their newborn child. She immigrated from Great Britain a long time ago, lived all her life in Israel, but still, I asked her, why do people in Great Britain believe Hamas lies and go out on the streets in these anti-Israel protests? And she told me the thing that I've been thinking about a lot after that. She said they couldn't even find Israel on a map. They believe it's the size of China, oppressing all those who are freedom-fighting Palestinians. Let's try and find Israel on the map right now. I'll show you. So this is the map of Middle East. This is Israel.
Can you enlarge it? Yeah, now it's clear.
So this is Israel.
Okay.
And this, for instance, is Egypt. And this is Saudi Arabia. And this here is Iran. And this tiny thing is Israel.
Okay.
All right?
It's lesser than the size of New Jersey, actually.
Yes, absolutely. I have another map here. It's about the size. It's slightly smaller than New Jersey or New Hampshire. So you can just for the perspective. This is the map of the United States of America, right? And this is the size of Israel. You can drive through the whole country, north to south, in about 5 hours. Right. So yeah, that's a very good question. Why people believe that?
Okay. So, how do you distinguish between a legitimate criticism that is directed towards Israel and a criticism that is deeply rooted in anti-Semitism?
That's something that we could really give thought to. I believe that first you need to look at the level of emotion. If you see that someone is screaming their head off and using all these, epithets that the terrorist propaganda are using about how do they say, crazy mad dogs of Zionism, and then probably you need to see a red flag in that. But seriously speaking, the yeah, the stylistical difference is tremendous. And legitimate criticism. We've been having quite a lot of legitimate criticism over here in Israel. We've been protesting against our own government for more than 6 months before October 7th. So when you criticize something honestly and legitimately, you are trying to dig deep to the roots of the problem and to see a lot of points of view and to find some kind of a solution. But when you say from the river to the sea, suggesting that Israel somehow goes away, it's not a legitimate criticism, it's anti-Semitism right there.
Okay. So, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. True or false?
I think in this current agenda that we're seeing now, it's true. You could think of the dictionary meaning of these words and the etymology, but if the anti-Semitic protesters use anti-Zionism in one phrase with from the river to the sea, then we can say that, yes, for now it's true. It is anti-Semitism. And not allowing the Jewish students and the Jewish teachers to enter universities is anti-Semitism, because it's not going to help any Palestinians cause any or ease any of their suffering, right? It's just anti-Semitism and mayhem that people choose to run because they see that they can.
Okay. So clearly, both Kamala Harris and former President Trump have completely different positions when it comes to Israel. So, who the majority of Israelis are rooting for in the upcoming election, and why that candidate?
Well, the Israelis can't vote because only the Americans.
Sorry, your voice is not clear.
I mean, the Israelis can't vote in the American election.
I'm not saying vote. I'm saying who they are rooting for. Who they are
rooting for, who they are supporting. Well, Kamala Harris has consistently voiced her support for Israel's right to defend itself. So some don't see a huge shift in policy if she gets elected. Her office has made clear that she disagreed with the characterization of Israel's actions as genocide, which is already a big step, I understand. As for former President...
your voice is dropping in between. Can you...
Really?
Yeah. It's up and down like this.
That's weird. I didn't do anything, just sitting.
Okay, now, yeah.
Do you want me to take the headset?
Yeah, now it's good.
Okay. So, as for the former President Trump, in the recent debates, his answers on the topic of Israel were quite eccentric, I would say. He started answering the wrong question to begin with, answering about Putin and Ukraine.
He said that if he loses this election, Israel will be wiped off the map in the next 2 years.
Yeah. First, he said that he can make Putin stop the war in Ukraine, just like that. But then he realized that he was asked about Israel, and he said this 2 years phrase that you mentioned.
But
he said that.
But does not President Trump have a point? Because when he was the president, the Middle East was relatively safer.
Well, there was not also the war in Ukraine, you might argue, but as we say, correlation is not causation, right? The Middle East is such a complicated region. The USA has been, of course, tremendously helping Israel, and still you can't predict the terrorists' actions. I really doubt that the fanatics who are looking for opportunities to wipe Israel out are really looking at who is the head of the United States. I really don't think it works like that. Trump said that he will get the problem settled, the Gaza war problem settled and fast, but he didn't say how. Well, you can say, for instance, that if you're elected president, you will get this problem settled. It's cheap to say words. He didn't say how. Nobody really knows right now how to get that settled fast. So I don't know. A lot of people believe in Trump in Israel and root for Trump and think that Trump is all pro-Israel and will give us unconditional support. Who knows? Some say that support, in his view, is support to Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu. And it's not quite clear if that is for the good of Israel. Kamala Harris was quite confident, yet she did mention the two-state solution and the ceasefire, and that raised some eyebrows. But she condemned Hamas. She spoke about the hostages, the victims of October 7. She reiterated that she would help Israel defend itself. And despite her not speaking any very loud words, like she would settle the situation in 3 days, it all sounded quite legit. So we're just going to see.
Okay. So it's no more a probability, it's a certainty. It's just a matter of time before Iran acquires the nuclear weapon. What kind of plans should Israel devise to counter the nuclear threat from Iran?
It's a very important thing to think of. Iran is dreaming of eliminating Israel, just like Hamas. Definitely, Israel would be in great jeopardy should that come to happen. And I believe that Israel would do anything to prevent it. I strongly believe that it's one of the top aims of Israeli intelligence to prevent Iran having developed its nuclear bomb. And Israel is taking steps to prevent that happening. They are gathering intelligence, that's common knowledge, on Iran's nuclear activities. We are prepared military-wise. We have allocated significant funding to prepare from potential military actions and potential actions against Iran's nuclear facilities. And last but not least, Israel works closely in diplomatic field with international allies, particularly the United States, to apply diplomatic pressure on Iran, advocating for sanctions and supporting international agreements aimed at curbing their nuclear activities. Also, Israeli leaders frequently stated publicly the red lines that we have regarding Iran's nuclear program. So hopefully, our best hope is prevention of this situation where Iran gets a nuclear bomb because it might be even worse than Putin having nuclear weapons.
Okay. What kind of role can the Jewish diaspora in North America, Europe, and Australia play in shaping the narrative about Israel?
As I can imagine, it could be a crucial role in opposing Hamas propaganda that is rooted very deeply, forming the pro-Israel narrative, and even lobbying Israeli interests. For example, there are a few billionaires of Jewish origin that refused to continue support for universities where anti-Semitic protests have taken place. Barry Sternlight, the real estate billionaires, criticized his alma mater, Brown University, and cut investments. Columbia University, it's Robert Kraft, Columbia graduate, stopped donations. Billionaire investor Leon Cooperman and Len Blavatnik, those three people have donated nearly 100 million to the university. All of them stopped their donations. And there are other examples in Harvard and the University of Pennsylvania. So that's a noble and well-deserved step. That's the way to go. But I believe that it's not very simple because, as I understand, part of Jewish diaspora might identify as anti-Zionistic, not as in anti-Semitic, but as in anti-state of Israel. So it's quite complicated as well.
So the Middle Eastern experts in USA are divided in their opinions about Israel. Some say that Israel is in the danger of getting embroiled in an endless war, just like USA had been embroiled in Afghanistan for 20 years. So others say that Israel must do what the Allies did during World War II, that is, going all out against the enemy and making sure that the security of Israel is not threatened again. So, what's your take on this?
Well, getting embroiled, we are already there. We've been there for God knows how many years. All the time Israel exists, really. We did withdraw from Gaza once in 2005, uprooting some 900,000 Israelis who lived there. We wanted to part ways with the Palestinians, and the then President Bush encouraged this step and suggested that hostility would stop. What happened next? 2 years later, Hamas seized power and started building a terrorist state. It was a flourishing country with a lot of agriculture and people living their normal lives. However, since then, we suffered ongoing rocket fire from Gaza. Israeli disengagement didn't stop that, right? Then again, Israel has been pressured by the international community and started acting on the assumption that Hamas was turning pragmatic, preferring governing Gaza to destroying Israel. And that created a sense of false security, which resulted directly in October 7th. There is this thing with the Middle East. Some people in the Middle East understand only strength. However, horrible that sounds in the civilized world, but that's the truth. There's no doubt that if Israel right now withdraws for good, Hamas will build up again in no time and bomb Israel again and strike again at any moment. We've been sitting on the fence for far too long, as they sang in Jesus Christ Superstar. We need to finish this terrorist organization and this and stop the danger for our own people. But then again, we have hostages there, which prevents us from going all out. Our hands are tied. So at the moment, there seems to be no good solution in Gaza, unfortunately.
What do the Israeli people actually want? Do they want a settlement of ceasefire and bring back the remaining hostages, or do they want to keep fighting until the enemy is completely eliminated?
Israel is divided into two camps, specifically around this question, because both points are legitimate, right? We absolutely need to finish off Hamas and stop our people from being in danger and from running to shelters every once now and again. That's a necessity. That's the reality. But the other side are the hostages. There are still 100 people there in inhumane, horrific conditions, held in captivity in the tunnels of Gaza, and they need to be safe. It has been Israeli motto all the time that Israel would stand for each and every citizen. Currently, it's been close to a year, and we can't save all of the people that have been taken hostage. There are 2 very small children there, remaining there all the time. God knows what happened to them. All these people must be saved, and their families are working very hard and fighting like lions for their loved ones to be saved. But it looks like we can't have both at the moment, both finishing off Hamas and saving our hostages. And it looks like we've been trying to save all of our hostages for a year and having not succeeded. So Hamas doesn't want any hostage deal. Make no mistake, the talks of the hostage deal have been going on for all this time, and Hamas have been rejecting the conditions every other time. They don't want any hostage deal. They are very comfortable having the hostages because they know that Israel can't strike with all their might while they have the hostages. So the people in Israel, the society in Israel, are in turmoil. Some say that we must put hostages first. Some say that we must eliminate Hamas. And it is a very, very, very problematic question. And we don't see no end of it. It requires some kind of outstanding solution, really. Hopefully we'll see it.